Mike Schmitz here with Jonathan Givony, Quest Multisport. We're back at the G League Elite Camp looking at the draft-eligible prospects today. But Jonathan, you broke some news yesterday that there are going to be some guys skipping the NBA Combine. We have DeAndre Hunter, we have Chuma Okeke, and then we also have Killian Tillie. What is the strategy behind this? You know, we've also seen Matisse, Thybulle, and Rui Hachimura elect not to come to the Combine. Is this something you've seen very often? What do you think is kind of the thought process with agents in making this decision?
Well, this happens every year. There's a cat and mouse game that goes on between players, agents, and teams. You know, you want to keep things close to the vest. Agents don't have a lot of control in this process over where their player can go, and so this is the 1 week where they really have the leverage in controlling who gets a medical, who gets the interview, who gets to see who playing. And so I think, 3 out of the 5 guys that decided not to participate from the same agency, from Wasserman Media Group, they've done this in the past, with Domantas Sabonis last year. Isaac Bonga kept things very close to the vest. So it's not a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander as well. There was some things, a cat and mouse game there too. Everybody's got their own strategy for how to do this. And, to me, it makes sense with a guy like DeAndre Hunter, for example. We'll see how the lottery plays out tonight. What if he prefers to go 7th, to whoever ends up in the draft instead of 5th? I mean, it's not a big difference there money-wise. A lot of the agents these days, they're much more interested in putting their guy in the right situation as opposed to getting him drafted as high as possible. And if a team doesn't have a medical, doesn't have an interview, doesn't get a workout, maybe they're disinclined to draft that player. I mean, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I'm just curious to hear how much teams weigh this, right? Because these are guys we've seen a lot of. We've seen Rui Hachimura, upperclassman. We've seen Matisse, Thybulle, upperclassman. We've seen DeAndre Hunter play in huge games with Virginia in the NCAA tournament. So how important is not getting the medical? How important is maybe not sitting down with the kid? If you're sitting at 5 or 6 and you're looking at DeAndre Hunter, but you say, man, we didn't get his medical, or we weren't able to sit down with them, is that a non-starter? That's what I'm interested to see, and just based on your experience, how heavily do teams weigh that?
I think it depends on the organization. Some teams weigh that very heavily. The last thing you want is to draft a guy that has a medical issue that you weren't aware of. I mean, that could get you fired, especially if you're talking about a top 7 draft pick. Some teams aren't going to be as worried, but I look at how things played out last year. For example, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander fell to 12th in the draft. Mm-hmm. We look back on that now, we say, how did that happen? How is that possible? How did Charlotte pass on him? Domantas Sabonis, Wasserman got him drafted by Oklahoma City, which is where Jason Rainey worked at one stage. So I think that it worked for them in the past. So Isaac Bonga, they tried to steer him to the Lakers last year. They got it done. If it works year after year and there's no repercussions, it's going to, embolden people to try and do it year after year every time.
Yeah, I think it's a smart move. Listen, you want to put your guy in the best situation. It's something we don't really talk enough about, is just how important situation and fit is. And if you're going to be spending your entire rookie contract with one team, I think it makes sense to try and use your leverage and put that player in the right situation. And I think Shai is a perfect example of that. Looking back, like you said, how did Charlotte pass on this kid? How did he end up at 12th overall? Clearly was a home run for the Clippers. So again, I think it's a smart move by a lot of these agencies. Sure, if you're NBA teams, you would love to have all that information. I think transparency is huge throughout this process, but I think it's something that we're going to continue to see year after year moving forward.
Yeah, with guys like Matisse, Thybulle, and Rui Hachimura, situation is everything. I mean, DeAndre Hunter, to me, you can plug him onto almost any team. But with those two guys in particular, going to the right organization is going to be huge, because if you're asking them to be something that they're not, if you ask Rui to be a small forward who's creating offense for himself, I think that's going to put him at a disadvantage. And Matisse Thybulle, he'd be much better off going to a playoff team where he could be the 5th option, not asked to carry too much of a load, can continue to work on his jumper. What are your thoughts on situation for those two guys?
I think for them, it's huge. I think for most guys, sure, but like you said, DeAndre Hunter, he's going to be able to be a plug-and-play guy wherever he goes. I mean, we saw it with Thybulle. He was almost their fifth option at UW, in the Pac-12, which was not that strong of a conference this year. So, again, I totally get it. I think you need to put those guys in position to succeed. I think Thybulle is perfect for a playoff team, and it wouldn't shock me if this becomes a theme, and obviously has been a theme throughout the years. So, we'll keep an eye on this. We'll see if there's any more news that breaks this week. Obviously, we have the lottery tonight, so we're going to see, who wins the Zion sweepstakes and
who does he agree to work? Who does he agree to interview for? What if the number one pick is not an attractive situation for him? We're hearing that he's close to picking an agency here pretty soon. It's going to be a major player in the industry. And then John Morant, R.J. Barrett. There's going to be some. What if it's a team that you don't want to go to? What if that team who gets number 2 already has a starting point guard in place? Would Ja want to go there? And so. We're not done with the cat and mouse game. It's going to continue on for the entire next month.
Yeah, this is always a fun time of year with that cat and mouse game, and just stay tuned with us. We'll be locked in on breaking news or evaluating these NBA draft eligible prospects at the G League camp. So stay with us over these next few days. It should be a fun ride.